Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to another interesting lecture of clinic management system. This is Ali Raza and today I'm gonna discuss with you people about how to set up your database. And in the previous lecture I have added a program and a separate module in my clinic management system, and I have given that name main program, and I have created a DLL file basically. So I want to discuss in today's lecture what are the details of that main program module in our clinic management system, and how to start the database, and what should be the queries, what are the first tables, and how to write the CRUD operations. So let's start and have a look what we have today. So guys, that's my clinic management system. In the previous lecture I have created this roles window based on the inheritance that we have performed. Now I want to tell you that I have added this main class inside my existing solution of the clinic management system. So I have two separate projects here inside this one solution. So let me first tell you what is this main class, and I have copied this main class from the restaurant management system tutorials. If you want to go and see that tutorials, you can also go there and see that how I have created this main class. So whatever the code of that main class, I have copied that code and placed in this class main. Okay, so let me first demonstrate what is happening here, and then we'll continue further so that you can be able to do work. Now that's my simple class. In this simple class, first of all, the first method that you are looking at is the serial number method. This method is basically I have created to assign the serial numbers to my data grid view, so that my all the records will be assigned with a particular serial number. Let's say if I wanted to display 10 records, so the serial numbers from 1 to 10 will be displayed with the help of this code. So that's and look, I am using the object oriented methodology. So I have created a static method. Why I have created a static method? So that I don't have to create the object of this main class when I call this particular method. Now when I call this method, I will pass a grid view in which I am displaying my records, and along with my column name. So based on that column name, I have applied a for each loop, and I have created an integer variable. In this for each loop, I have iterated this loop for this many number of times. Let's say if the grid view contains 10 rows, so this loop will execute for 10 times, and every time when the loop will execute, it will pick up the first row of that grid view, and then the current row of that grid view. Every time the loop will run, let's say the loop will run for the first time, so the first row will be picked up, and then when the loop will execute for the second time, so that then the second row will be picked up, and so on. So every time every new row will be picked up, and then what I have done here, I have incremented my count variable with 1, and then simply displayed the value of the count on this particular column that I will mention when I call this function. So that's my first function. Right now this is not called anywhere. Okay, references are 0. Then the next thing that I have created here is another method, and this method is also static, and this method is getting the path of the my documents folder. Let me close this properties window. Now you can see it. So if you are noticing here, so look, I have this method, and this method is picking up the path of my documents. My documents is a common folder. You can find it everywhere in any Windows environment. So that's the common folder. That's why I have picked up with the help of this environment and special folder enums. Okay, so you can also do the same, and then the path of that my documents, the complete absolute path will be picked up and stored in this path. And then what is this? This is the name of the file that I will create for setting up my connection string. So instead, because I have copied and pasted here, so that's why this value is appearing here. So right here, CMS clinic management system _ connect. This is the name of the file that I will create later on, but for the sake of current lecture, I am just telling you that that's the name of my file, nothing else. Then what I have done here, I have checked does this file exists or not on this particular path. If this file exists, then what you can do, read all the text, and if the file does not exist, just return the blank. Okay, that's what I have done here. You can also create this static variable inside this particular folder. So let me cut this and paste it here. So static, look, you cannot make this static here. So if you remove this, and if you do like this, then it's also allowed, no problem. Now it's fine. Okay, so when the path will be picked up, it will be returned, and if the file does not exist, the blank quotes will be returned, so nothing will be returned. So that's what my method of connection string is. And then I have created a connection string object with the help of SQL connection, from where this SQL connection came in with the help of this particular namespace SQL data client. And then then here I have created the object and then called this connection string. So when I call this connection string method, the content of this file will be picked up and stored inside this my SQL connection, and it is also static and public. So I will use this single connection globally all over the software. I hope you are getting me what I'm trying to do. So these are the future things that I have done already, so that I don't need to create these things again and again, because when you're creating a software, you need to connect to your database on every window and on every stage. So it's not necessary to create the connections again and again, and to call the connection again and again. Just create it once here, I did here, and then you can reuse it again and again. That's what the beauty of object oriented programming we have. And then I have created another window, show window, so that I cannot I don't want to write the opening and closing window code again and again. So that's why I have created a static method with the name show window. In this method I have created an opening parameter of the form class, because I will pass on runtime my form that I wanted to open, I will pass my form that I wanted to close, and I will pass my MDI window, that is my parent window, that I will create later on. Okay, so first of all the closing window will close, and then the opening window will be open in a maximized format, and then the parent window of this opening window will be the MDI that I will pass, and then the last is I have called the show method that will display my screen or my window on the screen. Okay, and then I have created another show window, because let's say if I don't want it to close any window, so that's an overloaded version of the show window. Okay, so here the closing parameter is missing, because there are situations you can see later on where you don't want to close the window, in fact you just wanted to open the window within that MDI parent. That's it. So that's why I have created an overloaded version of this. And then later on throughout the project you need to show your messages with respect to errors and with respect to success messages. So instead of writing again and again the same code, I have created my custom function and passed two parameters, that are message and the type. And based on the message type, let me write here small e, so that it is case insensitive, it is similar in case. So now if the type is success, then this message box will be displayed, whatever the message I will pass, and if the type of the message is error, then this message will be displayed along with the error icons and all that. So okay, hopefully you have understood this function, and this function, and this function, and this function. So that's a neat and clean code. Remove unnecessary spaces. Now moving forward towards the reset enable. Of course, when you are creating a software, a professional software, you need to reset the controls dynamically. So that's why I have created this function, and I have passed a parameter, that is my panel, and whatever the controls that this panel holds, I have started a loop to iterate every control that the P panel holds. Okay, so when the first time the loop will run, the first control of this panel will be picked up and stored in this control variable, that is C. Keep in mind, in object oriented programming everything is a data type. So in fact I have instead of this I could have been written here a string or integer or float. So because this is the professional and advanced level software development, so look, because I am picking up the controls, so the container should be the same, and the first control will be picked up and stored in the control data type. Okay, now I have checked if the control is text box. If the first control that is picked up is text box, then store it in a text box, and I have done typecasting here. This is what typecasting is. Typecasting means forcefully conversion of your data type into another type. So because my control is in C, so I cannot use the properties and the methods of the text box by staying in the control class. That's why I have I have first checked that this is my text box. If this is my text box, then I have forcefully converted it to a text box type and stored in a text box object. Now I can be able to use the text box properties and methods and all that, because control class cannot support the text box properties. I hope you are getting me what I am trying to say. Let's say if I wanted to use the text box dot text property, so control class do not have the text property. That's why I have typecasted this. I have put this control and store it in a original text box TB. So my that control, if that is a text box, it can be stored in the, it will store in TB, and then I have applied these properties of my text box, that when this function will be called, the text box will be reset, the text box will be enabled, because this is the reset enable function. So, and the back color of the text box will become white. Same is the case for combo box drop down list. So if the control is combo box, then do the same, make it selected index to 0, that means nothing will be selected, and enabled it, and back color white. Why I have applied back color? Because I will do validation based on the color. Okay, and then the radio button is checked. Then if the radio button was checked and you are going to reset and enable the control, so you have resetted it by making the checked false and enabled it to true, and the color is white. Same is the case for checkboxes and the numeric up down and the button. Okay, so this is my method reset enable. The same method I have created for reset disable, but the only thing that I have changed here is I have make this enable property to false, because I am disabling my controls when I finish my insertion, deletion, updation, so that controls will, all the controls that you have inside that panel will be disabled automatically for security purposes. So that's what the case I have done here. For same for the combo box and then radio button, I have made the code is same, but the difference is this, only I have make this false in this function. So I hope you understood what I have done. So all the things are same, just this is the difference. Now moving forward, I have the enable controls. Here you are only enabling the controls, the code is the same, you are not resetting the controls. Okay, that means you are not clearing the controls, you are just enabling the controls. This function will be used when we are going to edit the details that we have inside our windows. So all things are now I hope clear to you. Now close this also. That's enable control, and that's a simple disable control. There is no reset. When someone try to edit the data, so the panel that you will pass should be disable again, and when you press the edit button that I have created here, then this particular function will run and enable the controls and disable the controls. Okay, so that's why I have created these all functions, so that I don't want to write the resetting code again and again on my every window. And then then I have created another method with the name check controls. Look, if I place here a label, that's my first control, and if I place here a text box, that's my second control. Okay, so let's say I wanted to check that this control is empty or not. So what I can do, I can write the if else condition on the back of the save button. Similarly, if you have tens of 15s and 20 of controls, then you can check every control one by one. So instead of doing that, I have done created a dynamic method with the name check control, and the result of this will be picked up and stored in an array list, and it is also static. So I have passed a panel, and that panel will be this panel, and what will happen, an array list will be created first, and then first control of that panel will be picked up and stored in C. If that is a text box, it is stored in a text box by typecasting, and I have created a condition here, because why I have applied this condition, you will understand these things later on. Because look, if there are 5 text boxes and you want to validate only 3 text boxes, so how can you skip the 2 text boxes? So that's why I have created this extra condition here, tb.allowDrop. AllowDrop, this is just a trick that I have done here. If the allowDrop property is true, then you do not validate the control. Simple. If the text box that is come here, its property allowDrop, if the allowDrop is true, let's say if I go to the properties of this text box and allowDrop here, by default the allowDrop property is false. If I make it true, so what will happen? This control will not be validated. Simple. So that this is how I can skip the control that I don't want to validate. So that's what I have done, an extra condition. And then if the allowDrop is allowDrop is false everywhere by default, so this condition will be executed. What is happening here? If text box is empty, then add it inside the array list. Okay, and if it is not empty, then remove it from the array list if the array list contains that text box. Simple. So that's what the case. And then I have applied a ternary operator here. If the back color, because you are checking, or how can you validate that this control is left blank? So that's why I have done here the back color. So how I have specified a back color? Look, I have applied a ternary operator here, ternary operation. If, that's my if condition, if text box is blank, then make the back color to fire brick, else make the back color to white. Similar code is done here downwards. If this is a combo box, and then check it, if it is now -1, then add it to the array list, and then if it does not if it is not blank, then remove it from the array list. And same is the case, I have applied back color to every to my combo box. Now same is the case for radio button. We have, let us see. So radio button, if the radio button is not checked, then the back color will be fire bricked. So this particular code will be executed with all the controls that are inside the panel that I will pass. So that's the same code for checkbox, and then that's the same code for numeric up down. Numeric up down is also a control which only displays numeric values, positive and negative. So if the value is 0, then add it, else remove it. Simple. And the color also. And then last, after all this, the loop is finishing. Let me zoom it out. Look, after this loop completed, I have returned my array list to my function. That's my function, that's my array list. So what will happen if my array list length will become greater than 0? That means I have left some controls, so I have to enter that detail. So this will be validated on runtime. Hopefully you have understood what I have done in this particular array list check controls. So this is my module that I have added and copied from my restaurant management system and added inside my clinic management system. So hopefully you have understood why we have added this module, and this module you can reuse it again and again in your every project. I hope it is clear to everyone. Now moving forward, let me tell you the database. The very first thing that I have created is the roles window, because what are the roles in your clinic, how many different type of roles do you have, so you have to first add the roles. For that purpose I have created first my database, that is the CMS. I have executed this query and the query is successfully completed, and look, CMS database is created. Then I have created a roles table, and inside this roles table I have added two columns, that is row underscore ID and roles underscore ID and role underscore name. It is identity, that means the ID is auto generated, and it is primary key, that means it is my unique column and it will not be duplicated, and it's my strong column. And then I have applied the name. The role name should not be duplicated because I have applied the unique constraint here, and the length is varchar 50 and it is not null. That means the value you should pass are mandatory. Okay, and then after creating this table I have executed it, and look, you have to go inside your tables and you can specify your roles table here. Okay, and now all your columns will be displayed. So let me show you columns. Look, that's my primary key and that's my name. Okay, so I have created the roles table. After creating this roles table, I have here the insert procedure. The insert procedure, inside this insert procedure I have only specified the name and stored it via the insert query. Hopefully you are getting me what I'm trying to say. Now I have created an update stored procedure to update the name based on the ID that I will pass on runtime. And then you also have to create these all stored procedures first, then we'll go to the code also, no problem, and the user interface as well. So based on the ID that I will pass, the name will be updated. And same is the case for delete. I have created a delete stored procedure. Okay, you are noticing that the errors are appearing here, but these are not actually the errors, because I have done everything on this same window. I have written every query on this same window. That's why these lines are appearing. But so don't get confused with these lines. Just select your query and just go to the execute button and press it. That's it. Now that's my delete. So with respect to my role ID, I will delete that particular role. And then you have the get roles method stored procedure, and I have picked up my roles ID and the role name. Okay, so these are my crude operation queries, so that I will use it in my software. Now one more thing, that I have created another table with the name users. So user ID is primary key, then the name, and then the user name, and then the password of that individual user, and the phone number and the address, and then last but not the least is the role ID. Why I have specified the role ID? Because you are in a relational database management system, SQL, MS SQL, so you have to create relationships, otherwise your database will become duplicated, or the redundancies are there and inconsistencies are there. So you have to be careful while creating this or designing the database. So role ID. So why I have created role ID here in users table? Because let us find the cardinality. So the cardinality between the role table and the user table is one role can have many users in it, but one user belongs to one role. So many users, because where you find the many clause, you can create an extra column of that particular first table inside the second table. Okay, so role ID is unique, so you have to add, because one role ID can have multiple users. Let's say in admin department you have 4 users, so admin is 1 and users are 4. That's why every user should have its own role ID. Okay, so it's a foreign key because it's a relationship. And then references, I have connected my role ID, the role ID of this column to this column of the roles table, and I have specified the constraints here that if someone deletes the role, let's say admin, and you have 4 admins within that particular role, then that all 4 admins will be deleted based on this code. Okay, on delete cascade. Cascade means when you delete the primary data, the foreign data will also be deleted wherever it is. And on update, when you update the role ID, the ID of the role will be updated here in the users table as well. So that's what the users table I have created, and then I have created the insert procedure, and then this is the way I have created a stored procedure. So why I am using a stored procedures? Because it is the safest way to communicate with your application. Your SQL queries resides inside your particular database, and you don't need to write the whole query again and again inside your software. So that's why I have used stored procedures, and with the help of stored procedures you can protect your software from SQL injection attacks. So that's the benefit of stored procedures. Now that's my update stored procedure, and based on the user ID I have updated my every detail that I can have inserted. And then you have the delete procedure. Inside this delete procedure I have deleted the user with respect to the ID of that particular user. And last but not the least, we have the get users stored procedure. In get users stored procedure, if you notice here, I have applied a join because I have created the relationship. So based on that relationship columns, I have joined these 2 users table and roles tables together, and then the ID, that's my primary key, and that's my foreign key, is the connection in between the 2. And now I am able to bring let's say user Ali can hold the role admin. I hope you understood what I have done here. So, and ordered by with respect to username in ascending order. So that's what my get users procedure is. Now the last thing that I will use here is the get users with respect to role. Let's say at some place in my software I need all the users with respect to a particular role. Let's say I select, let's say clerk, so all the clerks should display. Let's say I select the manager, so all the managers should display. So that's why what I have done, I have copied this query and pasted below here and just added a where clause here. That's it. So based on the role ID I will select all the user details. Okay, so that's what I have executed, and these are my 2 tables right now. And programmability, you can find your stored procedures here and look at it. Okay, so these are my stored procedures. Hope you have understood what I have done up till now. In the previous lecture you already seen how I have got this window and how I have done inheritance, and now in the later classes inshallah I will tell you how to design the user interface and how to incorporate that stored procedures and your database along with the connection string, along with the login screens and the settings of the connection string. We'll do that in the later classes. Hopefully you have understood everything. If you do not understand anything, please do write me and follow me and subscribe my channel and press the bell icon so that you won't miss any upcoming lectures. Thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.